Podcast. You're listening to the Night Shift After Hours Podcast.
You're listening to the Night Shift Podcast. I am your co-host, Zach, and with me today I have other Night Shift co-founder, Alex Tibu.
What's up?
And for our guest today, we have Jim Hodgson. Jim Hodgson, right? Why is it so weird to say now that I'm saying it? I guess maybe I just never say it out loud.
Yeah.
Because we only ever talk on Discord. It's kind of funny. But Jim is a comedian, a novel writer, a filmmaker, voice actor, musician. Your resume is as long as something. I didn't have a good metaphor for this prepared, but you do a lot of stuff. And
I do a lot of stuff.
Today's topic, I kind of wanted to talk about something you brought up on said Discord server about film festivals, and I think also you, in a different instance, you mentioned different styles of distribution than what might be considered the normal go-to for everybody who ever Google searches how to make money on short films or how to make money on feature films.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like what I want to talk about this topic, and our approach this year for the Night Shift is going to be kind of similar in terms of what we're approaching and how we're going about what we're doing and everything. So I felt it was really necessary and gonna be a really cool conversation to kind of just do a deep dive on that stuff. So I guess to kick it off, Jim, you had basically as succinctly as I can put it, you posited that short film festivals, maybe even feature film festivals, I don't think there's some of them don't delineate between the two. There's just film festivals. They, to a point, if you don't know anybody, they are sort of a money and time sink. And I think that's as succinct as I can get with your take on it. But it, paying respect to it as I should, there's a little bit more nuance to that, and to be more fair to it, I kind of want to expand on that. So, how did I do this time representing your stance on that?
Yeah, I guess that's pretty accurate. I think, I think the value of getting together in person with people who are trying to make the same sort of work that you're trying to make is valuable. And I actually like meeting people. I like being in person. I'm really, really fun to be around and just devastatingly handsome. So being in person is effective to me. So like the sort of traditional idea of a film festival, going there, shaking people's hands, all that stuff. I like all that. And that all makes sense to me. But what doesn't really make sense to me is getting on Film Freeway or any other, sort of festival submission, aggregator or on-ramp. And as I was saying, shotgunning your film out to all those people, that's where I think the problem is. So I don't think it's necessarily festivals necessarily, because, if you can submit to your local festival and go there and meet some other people who are making stuff in your town, that's huge. I mean, but that's also sort of, that's an oblique result. It's not, your film hasn't gotten an award, but you met somebody else who makes stuff. That's great. I'm talking to two guys who, live presumably close to one another and are making work together. So you guys know how valuable that is.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. There's just no way that festivals are viewing the amount of work that they get. I mean, I know that when I was getting some rejection letters this year, I was getting rejection notifications, and the first one I got was like, we had over 300,000 submissions this year, and we are so sorry, but we just did not have room for your project. And the next one came in, it was like, we had over 100,000 submissions this year, and it's like, okay, only 100,000? Really, guys? And then I got one a few weeks later that's like, we had over 10,000 submissions, and we just don't have room for you. It's like, what? Why are these descending,
Right.
Like, yeah. In a week, I'm going to get one that's like, we had 2 submissions this year, and you just did not make the cut.
Yeah. but part of that also, I feel, and we were kind of talking about this the other night, the way they phrase that to me, and I feel like I would get a lot of pushback on this comment from people who work in this particular space, the festival space. But I can't help but think that when you say we had over 300,000 submissions, they're hoping that you sort of be like, oh, okay, they just didn't have time to watch my submission. Because that's really what they're saying, I feel. They're without saying it. And again, I feel like I'd get pushback from that comment.
I think you would, yeah.
But to be really fair here, that is a lot of submissions.
Okay, like are these free submissions or are they paid submissions?
Most of them are going to be paid. Like if you're submitting to Sundance, I don't know how expensive Sundance is.
If I'm submitting to your film festival and I'm paying to do so, somebody better watch my film. Like, I mean, I will show up at their office and like quiz them on my.
Well, here's the thing about that. So like let's say you and I are going to set up a film festival. We're not, but like, let's just say we were going to, right? Yeah, we're not setting up a film festival.
Yeah,
we're not setting up a film festival. Let's say we were though. Let's say just hypothetically.
Cool.
Okay,
do you guys take shorts or what's up?
No.
No?
So
Shit.
10-second films.
How much does it cost to actually run a film festival? Right. So there's the space. Right. There's the marketing you have to do for it. There's the people you have to hire to run it. There's the people you have to hire to watch the damn things. There's the people you have to hire to, it's a whole operation. It's almost like a separate business unto itself, right? So at a point you have to say, okay, how much money, like if I say, hey, if you pay me this money, you can submit your film to my festival, right? Mm-hmm. In my terms and conditions, if it were me, I would put in the fine print saying, we may not actually watch your film due to the volume of submissions we get. To cover my ass, to basically say, like, look, just because you're paying money doesn't mean that we're going to watch your film. It means that we will consider, one, if we see it, we'll consider it, and two, it's very possible that due to the bandwidth that we might have this year, due to how many people we were able to get to submit, we may not get to it. And there's going to be people like you were suggesting, Jim, the other day, that there's going to be people that I, as someone who watches these films, I might recognize some people and might say, hey, I'm going to watch that film because I know this guy. I've seen his work before. It's really good. Or I know this guy because I went to college with him. Or, and there's going to be situations
right.
where
if I may just interject,
go for it.
It's not only that you know them and so you want to see their work, but because you have a relationship with them, you can expect later on in life for them to wonder whether you watch their thing. And so when you see them, you understand that they'll be, if they get a sense that you didn't even watch, if they paid and you didn't even watch their thing, then they'll probably think about submitting to your stuff in the future. They'll think about, treating you a little bit differently. So I just think it's not necessary. I don't think anybody's suggesting that there's like a scam or like
no,
or
not at all.
A conspiracy or anything like that. It's just that this is we're talking about organizations that are made up of and run by people, and people have unavoidable stressors and foibles and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, is that I'm not suggesting it's a scam. I would suggest that if you're being realistic, nobody's going to sit down and watch 300,000 films before the end of the year. It's just not going to happen, especially if it's a yearly film festival. Think about that realistically. You have 3 people, maybe 4 people on staff to watch films. You think they're all going to get through, what is that, like close to 70,000 films?
No, but I also think, in their defense, if I may, I also think that it's pretty possible within, 30 seconds a lot of times, I'm sure, for somebody to watch something and go, this is not a fit for what we're trying to do this year.
I think I heard a statistic where it's like 12 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say like 5-10 seconds, you'll know, like right off the bat, if it's going to be, anywhere close to or anywhere close to finishing, because you're not supposed to necessarily finish. You're just supposed to consider, okay,
Right.
is this going to be a fit for the festival, right? Because then once it's submitted, then you're in the running. Then you're being judged as to whether or not you win whatever category you're entering, right? So
Right.
to your point, yes, they're not aiming to watch all 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes of a film. They're aiming to watch 5, 10, 15 seconds.
Enough to make the decision.
Yeah, and maybe they even scrub through it just to kind of get an idea, like,
Yeah.
oh,
does
okay,
this
there's
get
actual
better? Is there-
cinematography. Yeah.
Do they ever
Yeah.
pay off whatever weird shit there was in the opening shot? You know, like, is there?
Right, like how funky does this get?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get an idea of what you're getting into. But at the same time, though, you have to do that 300,000 times
Yeah.
for just one example, or even 100,000 times. Fuck. Split that across 4 people. That's still 25,000
I mean,
films you got to scrub through.
I mean, I feel like this. I feel like I'm steering this into the direction of like a conversation about ethics, but like you're basically selling selling a service that you cannot provide at that point. I mean, like that's like
I don't think it's
that's like me saying like, I'll build you a car, give me your money, and then like you show up and I have no car, and I'm like, I don't know how to build car. I don't have time to build cars.
So I'll push back on that in 2 ways. So one, if you're submitting to a festival, in no way are they promising that they're going to watch your film all the way through. They're not saying that. You're submitting and they're going to consider it to see if it's a fit for the festival, right? So like even on that end and in the fine print, you're signing that quote unquote, you're agreeing to their terms, right? When you pay them money, that like there's no guarantee of like they're going to watch your film and give you coverage and like what you should do next time. And there's none of that stuff going on here. You're paying for the opportunity. That's it. And you're basically, you can almost consider it a donation so that the festival can keep doing what they're doing year over year. And, basically as a cultural milestone or cultural like touchstone, right? To like, we watch films. We want people to grow into being, more successful artists. And this is a way for them to do it. You're donating to that cause in a way by submitting to these film festivals. And that I'm not saying you shouldn't do it necessarily. I don't think that's what Jim's saying either. To the car thing, though, same deal. There's no guarantee. You might get your money back in that case. I think we agree at this point, kind of like what the sense or what our consensus is that maybe it makes sense to submit to festivals you're going to show up to.
Yeah. Especially if COVID is ever over.
One can only hope. Well, no, and honestly, like I do agree with you on the idea of like, well, I guess highlighting the value of meeting, locals who are potential collaborators, because I mean, I think with filmmaking, yeah, you can do it as like a one man or one woman band. However, I think it's way more beneficial. Like, if you have two capable filmmakers working together, they are more than the sum of their parts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is very valuable. And I think a lot of times too, I think if people can keep sight of that as opposed to just wanting to win themselves, I think the festival itself becomes much more beneficial.
So to dovetail into that, I actually recently met somebody on Discord. His name is Carlo. Me and Carlo are now great friends. Carlo lives in Milwaukee, lives where I live in Milwaukee. And so does Alex. It's actually how I met Alex. It was through Carlo. And now me, Carlo, and Alex have collectively made what? We've made... You and I did a bunch of like YouTube sketch things, which was kind of fun. Kind of bad, but kind of fun. Comedy-wise, bad comedy-wise. Not bad, like production. I think actually probably some of the better cinematography you've done.
Also to highlight the benefits of collaboration.
Yeah, we're doing this.
I can tell you can have somebody tell you that your work is good and validate you when you're way too hard on yourself, Zach.
Zach.
Because yeah, I mean, because yeah, like seriously, like I don't know. I feel like having a fresh set of eyes on something.
I will show it to you after this. I will show it to you, and you can tell me what you think, and we'll take it from there. I agree with you though; it is important. So I guess what I'm getting at here is I found people local to me through the resources I had access to, which is a Discord server, right? And that might happen to you, might not. That's kind of a 1 in a million sort of thing happening. But what I have seen happen and have heard of happening is people meeting at film festivals, local film festivals. Like, for example, the Milwaukee Film Festival, right? Yeah. You see someone's work that you really respect, you really like, and maybe they didn't win anything, but they screened it, right? And they screened yours, and you guys are like, oh, hey, you did that one thing. Yeah, you did this thing. Cool, we should totally like do something together sometime. And then before you know it, like you said, you're more than the sum of your parts. So you have two people that are relatively, they jive well. They see each other's work and they respect each other's work. There's a lot of maybes in that because you don't know really who you're going to meet, and so all sorts of things happen. But the possibility is there. And I guess to kind of, maybe if we were to take a stance, the stance is don't shotgun blast film festivals on Film Freeway, because that costs a lot of money and wastes a lot of time. Honestly, you don't need to do. But maybe the way forward is to still use Film Freeway to put your work out there, right? Some festivals were looking for films, right? Maybe it's a horror film festival and they haven't really had a lot this year and they need something to fill it out, and they saw yours. This has happened, right? They'll reach out to you and say, hey, we like your film. We want it to be in our festival. We'd like you to submit. Here's a discount code to our festival submissions, right? You can use that. And maybe if it's local, you can go to it and you can meet the people who organize it. And then, you can meet the other people who make the films that you also like or didn't like, whatever the case may be. But, use it as a networking opportunity. Don't think of it as like, I'm going to get rich and famous by shotgun blasting my film on Film Freeway and hoping I get into Sundance or some shit. So yeah, I think that's one point knocked down, right?
Yeah, networking good. Spending money on quasi-networking, not so good.
Yes. So the other thing you talked about was an alternate form of distribution. And I think I read the article that you posted about these guys who did a documentary and they just sold it themselves or something.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that? I can't remember 100%.
Yeah, I can find the link. It won't do me any good to read it out over the podcast, but it does exist.
I want you to read it verbatim. Don't do that.
Okay.
A dramatic reading.
A dramatic reading of a filmmaking article by Jim
Oh, I'm
Hodgson.
happy to do that. Yeah. Give me a wingback chair. I'm all about it. The general idea basically is just that it's a fool's errand to try to get to go from zero to picked up and have a theatrical release. I mean, you can rent out a theater and show it to your friends and all, but even that is going to be expensive. Just like screening, I don't know about you guys, but here in Atlanta, it's like if you want to screen something, if you want a couple hours of a place with a screen, it's going to be a couple $100, I mean, I don't have a couple $100 laying around.
Well, what could be cool if that, just pushing back a little bit, is like you could sell tickets. And when I say sell tickets, I don't mean like $10 a pop. I mean like $2, something, and consider it a donation, right? To just the ability to screen something. I've seen it work. I've seen it work out if you want to make it special, if you want that, but I wouldn't do it as like a promotional thing. It's not going to do anything for you to screen it at a theater. Nobody cares.
Well, if you're going to do that, I would recommend go to $10 or $20 because my experience with live shows is if people are converted, they'll be converted at 5 or 10 or 15 or 20. They don't really, it's so hard to get somebody to buy a novel that took you a year or more to write and cost 99 cents. It is so hard to get people to convert and take a chance on your book. Even though you get, the cover and the editing and all of that. But to get to somebody to come to a comedy show that they might not even like and they have no reason to know anything about, they'll pay 10 or 15 bucks easy. So it's like a year's worth of work to write a novel. I don't know. There's just something about the novel buying thing. I don't know if it's because of the race to the bottom thanks to Amazon or
have you tried selling it at $5?
Yeah, I do all the time.
Does it work better if you sell it at $5 than $1?
I think you get a more committed reader. I think you get a reader with more like a better buying temperature, to use a sales term.
I think there is something to selling something at a higher price for to get the perception of value, which is a kind of weird thing. Like a lot of times, you can sell a bottle of wine, you can sell the exact same bottle of wine for $10 or $40, and people will say the $40 wine tastes better.
But anyway, to answer the question, just talking about these two guys, sort of alternative distribution, they just made their own thing and sold it on their website. And and it's kind of an older strategy. I think it was in the early 2000s when they did this, because they were selling DVDs, which I wouldn't do now. But basically they made a film that they felt like had some, it was about an assisted living center, I think, but it's like a story about, I think people who do like athletics at the assisted living center. So it's like they're runners and they're tennis player, but they're all like, very people of advanced age, shall we say. So it's like a feel good. And then they went around to other assisted living places and used those as theaters and said, hey, let's put on a screener there. So rather than going after theaters or festivals, they went after a place where there's a built-in audience. I mean, people live there. They need stuff to do, and I think that's pretty brilliant.
I remember now reading that there was a part where they thought it was performing well enough, but they thought they could get more out of it. So they started doing test screenings with, specifically with that same audience, and then versus like people who were in, the old age Olympics, sorry. And then they also tried screening it with universities and healthcare brands that cater towards older people. And they found that the people who the brands, the marketing agencies and stuff, really loved it. They thought it would be, they thought it was great, like promotional material. So they started like branding their content in a way, and they started selling they sold like a $400 package to a university where they just basically gave them like a license to copy the film and host it on a server where like a teacher could just pull it up and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was really interesting because like that doesn't really apply to like a narrative feature film necessarily. It could, but
I think the basic principle does. I think it's just a matter of like finding your audience and just being able to sell to them. And I think they took it several steps further than most people do with actually seeking out an audience, and it seems like it paid off.
But how would you do that today in 2022, where we have Amazon Prime, Netflix, Apple Plus, Disney Plus?
I think you could pretty
Paramount
easily
Plus.
You could make a post-apocalyptic zombie horror thing where, like the heroes all get around on bicycles, and then go to bike shops and say, "Hey, let's do a screening of this. There's all this bike riding in the film. Let me let you watch. You can watch either a trailer or an extended sort of trailer on Vimeo, and if you dig it, let's put on a screening at your bike shop. And we've done this before. It's the easiest thing in the world. I'll send you some posters and stuff you can stick in the window. You can charge your mailing list tickets. You throw out a cooler full of Cokes and, let's put on the screener. It's so much fun. There's all these people coming to your store who wouldn't normally be there. And of course, they're going to purchase the soft goods that they need while they're there. And that's how you make your money anyway. You don't make shit on bikes. It's like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be applicable to a bunch of things like skateboarding or one-wheeling. I mean, I'd pay a hefty sum to watch a film about one-wheeling. I'm self-promoting right now. Well, I mean, I'm us promoting.
So relevant to that. So we'll get into that. So we have a film. I don't want to get into too much detail because we have a separate podcast.
I don't want to get into too much detail, but there are very few wheels.
Yeah.
More than zero, less than 5.
Less than 4.
Fewer than 5.
Yeah. But we're going to be appearing on another podcast in the One Wheel community about this film. To make a very long story short, we have a One Wheel narrative short film. It's the first short film about one wheeling, or at least the first one that anyone's ever heard of or cared about.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about it. But something we're doing is we're doing all this promotional stuff. Like right now, me and Alex, we just got done recording some lines for a rap music video thing that we're doing at the end of the film, just to kind of like, we're just having fun with it. You know, it's just fun.
Spitting dope rhymes. They're tasty like limes. What up?
Yeah, they're better than that. But so like one thing we're doing is, or one thing we're considering doing is putting it out to the one wheel communities all across the states and saying, hey, why don't we do a screener in your city? All the one wheelers who are like really, if you're a one wheeler, it's very tight knit. You know everyone in the city who, or know of at least everyone or most everyone in the city who one wheels. Kind of like bicycling, right? Same thing.
It comes with a community, and since like it's so new and it's so like the people who do it are very excited about it, that community is pretty damn tight.
Even if it wasn't new, like I feel like if you did like a Harley Davidson, like a motorcycle oriented film, and you like chucked that to like all the rider like the clubs, the riding clubs, and you know, especially in Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota. Holy cats, dude! You get all sorts of people on board with that because that's like the bread and butter of the Midwest for some reason.
Yeah, I think the one wheel thing sounds you know, pretty analogous to me.
Yeah, so I guess I on one hand I didn't really understand 100% how it could be useful, and then on the other hand I was already kind of like, we were kind of already aiming to do it. So cool. Kuda. But like also still like, let's take something less niche than that. Cause those are, I'll say they're relatively niche hobbies. They're not super niche. They're sort of mainstream. Like everyone knows what a motorcycle is. Everyone knows what a bicycle is, right? One wheel's really niche. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that one. But like a regular zombie film where there isn't bikes, do you still do it? You know, I mean, if there's not like a niche hobby attached to it, where you know,
sure, it's like you're going to try whatever you can possibly try. But I think trying to appeal to a broad spectrum of people and hoping to count on sort of like, for lack of a better word, sort of guerrilla marketing I think those two approaches are incongruous. I mean, I think you need to be as niche as possible, so that you have the facility later on to appeal to people who already exist in those niches, or niches, I believe is the plural. So
I love it. Yeah.
So it's like, I think the question doesn't really jive. I mean, can you still do it? Sure. Yeah. But I think you'll have better uptake if your movie or, you know, your film is about one wheeling and you go to one wheel people. I think it's better than just having a love story and going around, you know, and being like, hey, these people are in love.
I don't know. I think a lot of times though, you can make your basic love story and then just find something in it that might appeal to like a niche group, and then just like, and kind of market that. Like, I don't know. I guess we're doing all this self promotion, and Jim, like, I want to know, because I am not terribly familiar with your work. Tell us about projects that you have done and projects that you are that you're working on.
All right. So, did you want me to talk about the wine movie, Grievance Gulch, I guess?
Both, actually, because I'm excited for both. But yeah, go for it.
Thanks. Me too. The wine movie is basically made from the outset to be this to follow this sort of alternative marketing pathway. Like, I read that article before, the one about the older people who do athlete stuff, and I was like, you know what, I could come up with something that's, you know, just sort of targeted toward a niche. This is something I've struggled with for my entire artistic career, if you want to call it that, or since the inception of my artistic endeavors in whenever 90 whatever, when I decided to start trying to do comedy and write comedic stuff. It's like, you understand that you need a niche, and I know people I've seen people along the way pick a niche that works for them, and it really is key. But I have trouble with them myself because I'm interested in so many different things, and I want to do and make comedy about a bunch of different things. But in reading that thing, I was like, I could make something that's kind of got a little niche. I mean, and that's kind of how I landed on wine, because I really like it. I mean, I generally like it a lot. I like history. I like politics. I like travel, and all of those things are sort of baked into the wine industry. And my plan is to market it, sort of like we're talking about, like when it's done, go to wine shops and say, hey, look, it's a great thing about wine, and you can use your mailing list to reach out to these people, and you can get them all into the store. And, just like I was sort of riffing about how to sell it to a bike shop, that's exactly how I tend to try to sell it to wine shops. So I started by reaching out to some folks that I know in the industry, and I said, here's what I'm thinking of doing. Do you think it's a good idea? I got some feedback. Some people were like, no, I think it's a terrible idea. And some other folks were like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. But, I suffer from high self-esteem, so I went with the it's a good idea plan. And it's been going pretty well. I need another, like, maybe 2 more shoot days. I hope to get it done, within the next couple of months. I'd like for the whole production to be under a year. And I started in June of last year. So, it'd be good to get that done. And that's at mostly serioushistoryofwine.com if you want to see where I am on it. Would appreciate a look there. So that's that plan. And kind of the whole reason that I started doing these things is, I was doing live comedy and plays here in Atlanta, and they were going pretty well. I mean, I kind of had that feeling of like the plane is taking off, like.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course here comes COVID, and everything's shut down. Nobody's doing live anything, and so it's like, well, now I got to completely change my entire life and just and take what I was trying to do, which is just make people laugh, and find a way to do that from home, or at least in a way that doesn't endanger, myself and
other
others.
people. Right.
And so that's why I started, really working hard on the film, and also we did 3 seasons of a fully produced like audio podcast called Bad Gladiator, and it's like a narrative podcast, like a sitcom comedy, but a podcast with the voices and the Foley and the background and the ambience and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've done a few of those,
and it was a lot of fun, and we got ton of downloads. Like over the life of the thing, we've had many thousands of downloads, which is gratifying, and like people enjoy it, and they still retweet it to this day, and we haven't made a new episode in years now. But I had been thinking about that. It's like if I could just add the visual component, then I can have an animated show. I mean, we're mostly making an animated show except for the visual part. So we decided to try to do that, and I made a pilot, and then we crowdfunded for the rest of the show. It's called Grievance Gulch, and we raised the money that we said that we wanted, and started production on that around the same time, sort of July, August, I think. And now we're just cranking away on animating, and but yeah, so those are sort of the 2 main things I'm working on now. And I'm also doing, some like column writing this year, and I'm about to start. I think I'm about to start making like some weird shorts that are like I just started making these vlogs about the process of making the wine movie, and I've enjoyed those so much that I want to sort of explore that feeling of vlog, but very weird, like
dude, those are funny.
Like a sort of a Tim and Eric sort of approach to that sort of vlogging.
The ones you've done that I've seen already are hilarious. Like when you're just the floating head, and you're just placing you're just talking about what you're doing, and then you're having like the visual cues, right? And like you're just placing your head in really funny freaking ways. It's classic. It's classic YouTube, but it's also like it does feel kind of Tim and Eric-y to me. It also just feels funny. It's just it's very Jim Hodgson.
Thank you.
I would say like there are billions of vlogs out there, and
billions.
Weird is good, because I mean, like if you make something that stands out,
mm-hmm.
and like I haven't yet seen it, but yeah, I trust Zach's judgment. Like, I mean, if it's
funny,
if it's hilarious like that, like, and it's weird, I would say like there, even if it isn't going to appeal to like everybody, it's probably still going to garner an audience. And you can make things generally that like a lot of people are going to kind of like, or just a handful of people, like a small niche group, are going to love. And I feel like and I feel like those are going to be like your best supporters.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I did a YouTube show back in like 2015, 16, and we had a little audience with it. And it like, I got a little frustrated with the sort of the YouTube way of life where they have some sort of programmatic reason to turn off your monetization, and then you send them an email about it, and you're like, "What the hell?" And they're like, "Oh, my bad," and they turn it back on. But by now, your view spike is over, so you didn't make any of that money, and it's just like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah,
and then
sorry.
I mean, I think monetization with YouTube is a whole big complicated thing, and especially like a lot of people simply like opt out of it and find like their own sponsors.
We had a lot of luck with Patreon and stuff.
Ultimately, like you get these creators that reach out to these companies, and then they circumvent the YouTube machine, and then the companies will pay you much more than YouTube ever will. Because if you've ever seen like the CPMs, like the cost per milli, so like every 1,000 views that you get for something, they don't pay you much.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because they're banking most of it, and they're charging the companies more. So it's very much, you're very much incentivized to cut out the middleman, i.e. Google / YouTube in this case, because
Alphabet.
Alphabet, the whole nine, right? Because of that, because they're just going to give you all of the money, and they're paying you less. They have more interaction with you, so they get to better tailor your advertisement, right? They tell you what to say mostly, but then you as the creator can take your own spin on it. And if you actually care about the product, which is the only way I would advertise for something, is if I actually believed in it, then you'll actually feel good about it. Because I feel like with monetization, I haven't even done it because I've not yet made a successful YouTube channel, nor that I really necessarily want to. I say this as we put our podcast on YouTube. But like, I would just kind of feel like, I don't know, it feels like I'm holding out a hat and asking you to put money in it without asking you to put money in it. Whereas if I have a Patreon, or if I have ads, like ads are something I believe in, and I'm saying, hey, this is a really cool thing. You actually would want to check this out because it could be a benefit to you. Or if I'm putting out a Patreon, you're deciding to give me money. You're making a conscious decision to say, hey, I believe in this content. I want to sort of circumvent YouTube and kind of go that way. And, that's a much more honest transaction than sort of just passively generating income through ad space.
Yeah, we had more luck with Patreon. But it is like, it is one more thing. It's one more website to update, and there's but that's okay. I mean, that's just spend.
I mean, but
so
Patreon
much of my
was
time clicking the mouse.
I mean,
Sorry,
Patreon was a pretty fantastic like step for creators. Because like Jack Conte from Pomplamoose like made that basically because he was in the same boat as like the rest of us. Like, and it was just like he had an idea and a friend who could code. And then, like, very soon after, it was just like it was a thing, and it generated like millions right away.
So you have Grievance Gulch, you have a mostly serious documentary about wine, and those are mostly serious documentary about wine is mostly finished, right? You're just kind of buttoning that up.
Well,
still.
You know how it goes though, because it's like it feels like I'm at like 80%, but the last 20% is what takes all the time. So it could stretch into another year of farting around. And I'm also like, as I'm going, I'm learning new stuff that could be applied to stuff that I thought was in the can. You know what I mean? So it's probably got a little ways to go. So there's the mostly serious history of wine. There's Grievance Gulch, and then this new thing that I'm looking to make more into videos is the column I write, The Laughing Gallows, and I want to take those and make those into like explore I just sort of stumbled on this this hilarious and silly way of making videos, which is, they're basically vlogs, but they have a sort of a silly element to them. And I want to explore that more as an art form of its own, which is, it's such a weird feeling because I just started doing it because I didn't really care. Like I had this amount of information to impart.
You're almost like making a meme out of it almost.
It's like a fourth wall break in that the show is aware that it's a show. So there's that sort of meta, if you prefer, and like fourth wall breaking element. But I don't know. It's I've seen some other people doing things that are kind of close, and I'm excited about it because it's like it feels fun and it feels fresh, and I enjoy the style of humor. I've done so much work in like satire and like making stuff that's like The Onion and making stuff that's like The Daily Show, that what's new about this is it feels to me like a way to get at some similar humor, like to embody things that anger and disgust me, that's what satire is about. Rather than preaching to people, you embody the thing that you're talking about. It's a way to get at that style of comedy without being an obvious sort of analog of The Onion or The Daily Show. So that's why I'm excited about it.
So I did want to ask you what you're working on right now that people are going to be able to like, or what you've most recently completed that people are going to be able to go and check out. And like, I mean, I really want to send people to you just to kind of get an idea of what you're doing. Because you do a little bit of everything, and I feel like you have like this widely varied skill set, and you're kind of a unicorn in that respect because you have your bag is like super mixed, and it's very unique.
Thank you. I didn't know that we'd be talking about my bag, but it is pretty mixed. Probably the easiest way to find me is just to go to my website, which is jimhodgson.com. But I make it even easier for you because back when I was focusing on novel writing, I was going to some writing conferences, and I got tired of spelling my last name. So I'd be like, just go to my website. It's jimhodgson.com. So instead, I registered a URL that's much easier to remember, and it's readmyfuckingbooks.com. So even though I'm not like... Even though I'm working on other things than books right now. So readmyfuckingbooks.com, and you can find out. And it says right there at the top the things that I'm working on now, which is my column, The Laughing Gallows, the wine movie, and the animated show about gunslingers, grievance-gulch.com.
I'm going to wrap this up with a piece of advice, and I'm going to use Jim's favorite word. I'm going to dovetail this into something I think is really applicable.
Cut that.
Cut that. Don't cut that. To filmmaking is so there's this like idea, and I've done it similarly, and we were talking about it before. This is kind of like why we connect so well, is because we come from relatively similar backgrounds. Like we both come from music. We're both writers, both filmmakers. You do more of the comedian thing. I don't. And there's like this thing that I think some people, when they're getting into filmmaking, they think they have to do everything. And I think to a degree, I would say it certainly helps to be able to do everything. But there's a point at which you can't. And it comes pretty quick. It comes on very quick that you realize, oh man, I need help. And I should do like half of this stuff because I'm just terrible at it and I don't have the time nor the interest even beyond just getting it done to get good at this. I need to find someone else who is good at this and wants to be good at it. Someone who has a passion for it and wants to do the same kind of stuff that you're doing in a different department, a different vocation sort of thing. So I guess what I wanted to impart was it's cool that you can do all these things, that I can do all these things, that Alex can do all the things he can do, which is also pretty vast. He sells himself short sometimes, but you don't have to be that. You don't have to be a marathon man in terms of like all this different art stuff. And I don't think it actually helps to be necessarily. Sometimes it does, but sometimes for me, it kind of gets in the way. I have too many things sometimes I'm interested in, and that's not like pumping myself up. It's almost like I can't keep my head on straight because I just am into, like, I love podcasting. I've always wanted to podcast, and now I'm doing it, and Like all I can think about is like, how do I make this better, and how do I, what mic should I buy next, and like all that stuff, like audio nerdery stuff, right? I'm into audio stuff. I like that stuff. That's not very helpful because like I don't use it for filmmaking, and on top of that, like it's not like my main goal, which is to make films and be happy with that. It's something I like to do. It's a hobby for sure, but
I think it's a gift and a curse to have such a widely varied skill set, and it's
jack of all trades, master of none sort of deal.
Well, I mean, like you can kind of incorporate those, like the many skill sets that you have to benefit the thing that you want to focus on, to some degree.
I'll say it's easier to communicate what you want, maybe. Because like if you have the ability to draw a little bit, maybe you're not good at it. Maybe no one wants to see what the hell you got on your scratch pad. But if you're trying to communicate to an animator or to your cinematographer, like, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking angle-wise, and I'll draw it out for you, and you can see, like in a storyboard segment for an action scene, oh, that's what we're doing? Cool, I got it. Let's do this. I got it set up. Let's do a one-er this way. You've communicated effectively. And it's all because you were somewhat into drawing enough to get a Wacom drawing pad, and you got that because you were thinking, oh, I'm going to be a graphic designer, but you never actually followed through on it. But now you have it in your toolkit that you can just whip out your little Wacom drawing tab, or like your iPad Pro, and put that in your bag. And
it's true. You're right. You do get much better work out of people who are not only enthusiastic about their work, but also knowledgeable. And that only comes when you spend a lot of time. So you're absolutely right. It would be great. And I hope to get to the point someday where I can, afford to get more people on board. I don't love having, sort of spent all this time doing so many various things, because I do sense that I could be farther along in one thing had I just focused on that. I mean, you talk about marathon, and I'm an Ironman finisher, a multiple marathoner. I've done ultra marathons. So I also, in addition of all this artistic shit, there's also endurance athletics, mountaineering, you name it, dude. So I would love it if I had sort of consolidated all that energy into laser focus, but it's not easy to know when you start what direction is the proper one to go in.
What would your advice be to somebody who wants to get into the mindset of focusing, hunkering down, and putting stuff out there, like what you're doing?
I don't know. I don't know if it really benefits me or if it's a sickness that I have. I mean, I'm an adopted person. I don't have a sort of a traditional family like background. I think that's part of why I'm so restless. So it's like people see the amount of stuff that I've done and they're like, wow, you've gotten a lot done. And it's like, well, yeah, I did, but I was also a bachelor until I was damn near 40, because I was busy doing writing books and traveling and playing in bands and stuff instead of meeting somebody and having a real relationship with them. So, it's like what's really important in your life.
Alex knows this problem pretty intimately because I've dragged my feet on a particular edit of a particular film I won't name at the moment. And because of that, the footage got lost because I was in the middle of something else. Other life stuff happened. Yeah, I lost the footage for it. I have a cut of it done we were going to rush it out to a festival. And
you absolute donkey. How dare you?
I'm such an ass. But we have a cut of it, but it's so bad. It's so bad. And I actually question whether or not it would matter if I had the footage still, because it still wasn't that great. So our friend Carlo is one of the most driven people I've ever met. Seriously, it sounds
Carlo.
like I'm what's that?
Attaboy Carlo. Give him help.
Yeah, he is it sounds like I'm buttering him up, but seriously, he motivates me to do stuff. I wouldn't have done as much last year at all, probably even close to what I've done, if I hadn't have met and involved myself with his projects.
We are both older than him, like Zach a little bit, me a lot, and he's kind of like a mentor. Although I don't think he
how old
sees
are you
it that way.
If you don't mind me asking.
I'm 29. Alex
I'm 37.
It's on one hand, it's sort of like, wow, how much of a piece of shit do I gotta be to be this unmotivated compared to like, someone as young as Carlo. And he's not that young, but he's young. He's relatively young compared to me, at least from my point of view. And he's still like, he's more thorough in the way he completes projects. He's more thorough with how he schedules and orders his time, and uses his time. And it constantly pushes me to do better. And I like I said, I would not be where I'm at now had I not met him, in terms of the stuff that we've done last year. And that's a big problem for me. I shouldn't need another person to be complete, I guess, is kind of like where I'm coming at this. I don't. What do you say to people who have problem finishing things?
I don't know, because on the one hand, people are where they are, and I wouldn't want somebody to feel bad because their way of living is different than mine. That doesn't make sense, And I think, when I hear you sort of getting on yourself or calling yourself a piece of shit because you have a different like output level than Carlo does, that doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel right. So I don't know what to say, but I do know that I have a different way of going about it. Maybe because I was raised by the boomers. I mean, I'm 47. And
old-fashioned American hard work, I tell you what.
Yeah, it's like we didn't do emotional intelligence. So
that's a funny way to put it.
Right.
It's a very accurate and funny at the same time.
Well, okay, so one thing I will say is like it's one of those things. It's like it's very difficult. Like, and I know that it's wrong to compare myself to a lot of other people, especially like got onto the poetry scene when I was like 20 years old. And it was like,
so I told you his bag is big.
I was so like, I mean, I remember telling this guy, Bobby Drake, he did this piece, and I was like, I could never do something like that. And he's like, don't try to do what I'm doing. Like, you're never going to be a better me than me, but I'm never going to be a better you than you. And it's like, your path is your own. You kind of have to like, just make sure you keep on it and you're doing your best. It's like, I mean, like, if I could see if you're like sitting back and just like sitting on your ass, but it's just like, no, you're hustling. You drove how far to come and like record a song and a podcast today? Like, I mean, like, the hustle is real. Like,
sure,
you can't stress out. Plus, I mean, like, I would say there are a lot of special cases, and Carlo is one of them. Cause yeah, my guy has been making movies since he was like 11.
Yeah,
seriously. Yeah, I feel like so it sounds like I get down on myself a lot, and I do, to be really honest with you. I do. I don't want to excuse it because I don't want other people to feel like, oh, I just have to get down on myself, because maybe you don't, but I've been doing things for a while, as old as I am. I've been doing the music thing since I was 13, 14 years old.
And he's dope.
I've been trying to do, I had been trying to do the voice acting thing. I've been doing the writing thing since I could read, basically. Like I've had my hands in a lot of pies. That's gross. Don't do that. But something I learned from Carlo very early on is that, and I knew this, but like I finally understood it when we produced a film together in the last summer. It's called Inoculation. You can see it on our YouTube channel. But when we were producing it, he told me when it was really, really dramatic. I remember it being very dramatic because of something I can't really talk about, just because it involves talking badly about other people, and I don't want to do that. But me and him were kind of sitting in his room, and we were at this like, what's going to happen next moment? Like, did we just waste all our money renting stuff? Wait, did we rent anything for that shoot? We didn't rent anything, but we did buy stuff. We bought Crafty, and we organized all these people. We pulled favors, right, to get people to show up for crew, for cast. And we were just sitting there, like, we basically wasted all of that because of this one person, not going to name names again, was just shitting in our cereal. And he said that he's just going to do it. He's just saying, you know what? Fuck it. I'll rewrite it. We'll just make it work, you know? Like, and I sat there and I'm thinking, how can you just do that? Like, how can you think that that's, like, not necessarily how can you think, how dare you, but like more like, how can you just stare at this in the face, get slapped, you know, by someone's butt cheeks, right? And just say, okay, I'm going to do it anyways. And like, just I don't know. It's brave is maybe the word I'm looking for. And I asked him, I'm like, what do you like? I don't know how you're so calm right now. And he said, look, I am as mad, maybe madder than you are right now. But at the same time, nobody cares about this project more than you or I. And nobody cares as much about what it looks like more than you and I. And if we at least get it finished, I'd rather have that than just be mad at this person for, ruining our thing. And at that moment, I didn't just know the concept of, oh, no one cares about your project more than you do. I understood it, like, fully. And like hit me like a ton of bricks, like holy cats. And that is I guess when you're talking about enthusiasm, that's kind of like what you're getting at, right? Is like you want people who are on the same page, who are as enthusiastic about the idea of what you're doing as you are, if you're going to be really collaborating with them.
It sounds like we've all encountered that. Like we all have like a taste of that, and it's just, I guess, like we should keep that in mind, keep appreciating that, and definitely make that useful, because I think that's one of those things that can lead to success or it can lead to failure. It's a make or break thing. And on that note, I think we have come full circle.
Yeah. We did it, guys.
Okay. Unsponsored sponsorships. So you guys kind of have an idea how this works. It's basically a thing you're not paid to say is really cool that you think is really cool. And it could be a life hack. It could be a product, just whatever it is. Something recently that you discover that's like, why haven't I heard of this before? Why haven't I been doing this before? And I'll kind of kick it off. DaVinci Resolve's cut page. It's freaking awesome. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people who use Avid are like, well, yeah, that's like how you're supposed to do it, dummy. Having it in DaVinci Resolve and actually learning how to use it, you can cut and piece together like a rough timeline, a really rough cut. But you can do it really, really quickly. I just did a wedding edit for somebody, and doing that part of it took me like an hour. Just like rough cutting it, like putting all the clips that you're going to have on the timeline. And you don't ever have to leave your hand from the keyboard. Wow. So like you're basically speed editing. And it's freaking awesome. And I thought I'd share that with you guys because I don't know. There's a lot of people I know who use Resolve and just don't ever touch the cut page. And I know a lot of people
never once have.
You should try it.
I got to check that out.
Yes, but also if you use Premiere, I know you don't have it because Premiere is Premiere. But I'm just saying, like, if you want a new experience, try Resolve on the cut page. Learn the hotkeys. There's really only like 4 or 5 of them. And once you know them, you're just using them constantly.
Zach has his fingers bunched. He's on his way to a chef's kiss.
Yes, it is very chef's kiss.
I think that is the first sort of commentary of a chef's kiss in progress that I've ever been a part of. And it was magical.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well done.
I'm going to send a shout out to our non-sponsors, local coffee roasters, because there is nothing like having work to get done. There's nothing like having the right fuel for that, and it's just like I feel like there's nothing like a great artisan roaster. And
shout out a specific one. Get specific. What's a good one?
Let me shout out Hawthorne, just because like when
Hawthorne, I've not heard of that.
They are on the south side of Milwaukee.
Where's that?
Hawthorne Coffee Roasters on, I believe it's Howell. But yeah, they do a fantastic job of roasting their coffee. And also I fell in love with them all over again because when like,
do they have a shop?
Yeah, they do.
Where?
Yeah,
It's right in the roastery.
yeah.
Why have I never? Okay, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Yeah,
sometime.
see, I mean, and there's always another one to discover in the city in Milwaukee. So yes, Jim, if you are here, if you come to visit, I will buy you coffee.
Fantastic.
And you have evidence now.
Yeah, it's recorded evidence. All right, Jim, what do you got?
I'll give you guys a pro tip for my recommendation,
Yeah.
which is this. If you've ever thought about if you've been thinking about buying a bicycle, like at some point in your life, now is just about the time. We're entering what I call the Moabso, the mother of all bike sell-offs. During lockdown, just people rushed bike shops and everybody bought bikes. They bought everything that was bike shaped. I don't know if you guys remember this, but 2 years ago or so, like bars were closed and sports was off and there was nothing to do. Everybody went out and bought a bike. And those people
I remember that.
Those people now are realizing that they don't want to ride that bike. And they remember spending $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, whatever like that on the bike. And they're going to throw it on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. So keep your eyeballs. If you've thought about buying a bike or you're thinking about upgrading your bike, over the next sort of year, it is going to be a golden age for used bicycles. Their price is going to go through the floor because of all these, like Corona is over sell-offs. So keep your eyeballs on the used bike market. And if you're holding on to a bike that you want to sell, you're screwed. Sorry.
Hold on to it longer.
Yeah.
Right out the wave.
Yeah.
Cool.
Call it a towel rack. Yeah.
All right. And with that, we're out. Thank you for tuning in to the Night Shift Podcast.
Night Shift.
You're listening to the Night Shift After Hours Podcast.